From the time we were young, most of us, we were trained to take up less space. So we'd hear things like, don't be too loud, don't be too emotional, don't be too much, don't draw too much attention. And so we learn to shrink over time. And in so doing, we also learn to apologize for existing in ways that made others around us feel uncomfortable. We learn, in essence, to tone down our laughter, to silence our excitement, and even to hide our own brilliance so that we wouldn't be labeled as intense. So we learn to treat our presence like it was more of a disruption instead of the contribution that it is. But shrinking doesn't make us safe. Shrinking just makes us smaller. See, we don't belong by disappearing. We belong by being. This is Uber Bintegers, where we want to practice being seen without apologizing. And we want to breathe in our truth that our presence has always been a gift. Now, there's this conditioning that we've had to disappear over time, right? Let's name what's really happening here, though. I think it's that the world has taught us to internalize invisibility as politeness. And so we become fluent in minimizing ourselves. And we say things like, it's fine, when it's really not. And we say, no worries, when we're hurt. And then we laugh things off that actually did sting. And we keep the peace at the expense of our own authenticity. And all this we've been calling maturity. We call it grace. But the thing is, what all this really was it was just survival. Because for many of us, shrinking once kept us safe. You see, like as children, it was what protected us from punishment or disapproval or ridicule. And as adults, it protected us from the rejection and the judgment. But what once kept us safe is now just keeping us small. See, every time that we dim ourselves to maintain belonging, we're reinforcing the lie that our presence is a problem that really needs to be managed. And here's the truth, though. It never was. See, integrity is the power of owning your space. Integrity is what anchors us back to presence. Integrity is what asks the question that says, can I be here fully without having to edit myself to fit someone else's comfort zone? Integrity really means that we're being honest about who we are without any distortion along the way. It's, in essence, what keeps us grounded when others are projecting discomfort onto us. And it's what stops us from over-explaining our existence. It's what teaches us that being authentic is not arrogance as much as it is a choice to be aligned. So when you move with integrity, your presence becomes congruent. And your words, your tone, even your energy, all of this sync and match up. See, that's congruence that creates safety, not just for you, but for all those around you as well. Because people may not always like your truth, but at least they can trust it. And intimacy is the courage to be seen, right? Intimacy is what invites us to be seen as we are, not as we think we need to be. But being seen is terrifying, isn't it? Especially when your worth was once attached to performance. So we think that intimacy is about closeness, right? But real intimacy begins with exposure. It's where we allow others to see us, imperfections and everything. And that's why I think many of us, we crave connection, but avoid visibility. We want to be understood, but not to be observed. We want to be loved, but it's scary to be fully known, isn't it? Because to be known feels dangerous when you've spent your whole life managing how others see you. But the truth is, intimacy and invisibility cannot coexist. If you want to be loved for who you are, you have to actually show who you are. And that's not the curated version I'm talking about, not the polished self, but the real one, the one that shakes and hesitates and the one that feels deeply. Your presence is not the problem. The problem is a culture that rewards masks and punishes authenticity. So there is this shame in society of being too much. You see, at some point, most of us have been told that we were too much, right? We were too emotional, we were too sensitive, we were too passionate, we were too outspoken. And so hearing this, we try to be less. We thought love would be easier to receive if we came in smaller doses. And so we try to ration our depth so that others wouldn't drown in it. We try to minimize our joy so that others wouldn't envy it. But all that did was to teach us to abandon ourselves in real time. See, too much is often said by people who don't have the capacity to meet you where you're at. And their limitation, I would say, their limitation is not your lesson. You are not too much. You are simply too real for environments that were built on pretending. Integrity means that you stop apologizing for the volume of your soul, if you will. And intimacy means that you start surrounding yourself with people who can actually hear your fullness without flinching. And reframing presence as a gift is part of this process, I think. See, every time that we show up authentically, we're giving others permission as well to do the same. See, our presence says it's okay to be seen. It's okay to feel deeply. It's okay to exist loudly in a world that really worships silence. See, when we show up in our full energy, when we're kind and when we're grounded and when we're real, we're in essence reminding others of their own aliveness. We become this mirror that reflects freedom and not discomfort. And that's what integrity and intimacy look like when they're in motion together. Integrity says things like, I will not shrink to fit your expectations, right? And intimacy doubles on that and says, I'm going to meet you here as I am, unapologetically. And together, they turn presence into a powerhouse. See, here's how I think we often apologize without even realizing we're doing it. Like, there's these subtle ways that we still apologize for our very presence. And this happens when we over-explain, for example, our emotions, or we dismiss compliments instead of actually receiving them graciously. And we ask, does that make sense? I mean, I do this all the time. And we smile to appear agreeable when we actually disagree. We minimize our achievements so that those around us don't feel small around us, right? See, each of these micro habits teaches our nervous system that existing authentically is unsafe. But when you begin to unlearn these micro habits, you, in essence, are reclaiming your right to take up space. You stop performing for peace, and you start actually embodying it instead. Integrity is really the responsibility of presence. I mean, here's what integrity is trying to teach us. It teaches us that presence is not entitlement. Our presence is stewardship. It's not about demanding attention. It's more about directing energy intentionally. And so when you walk into a room aligned with your values, you're in essence bringing this sense of calm and not chaos. You're bringing truth and not tension. You're bringing a sense of coherence and not control. Your presence doesn't overpower it. It actually grounds it. It shifts the energy of that space, not because it's loud, but more so because it is truly authentic. That's the quiet authority of integrity. And intimacy, I mean, intimacy is this healing power of being seen. There's there's something sacred that happens, I think, when we stop hiding. And that is that our relationships begin to heal. Because when we stop apologizing for even existing or taking up space, we stop attracting people who only love us when we disappear. And then we start connecting with those who actually celebrate our wholeness and not just our compliance. Intimacy allows us to both be strong and soft at the same time. It reminds us that vulnerability is not a weakness. It's honesty with skin on it. When someone says, "I see you," and you finally believe them, that's intimacy doing its work. That's when you realize finally that your presence was never a problem. Your presence was just waiting for the right environment to be received. Let me talk a little bit about how to practice worth through intentional presence. 1, stop leading with apology. So replace your sorry for taking your time with thank you for being here. I appreciate it, right? Gratitude centers that dignity, whereas apology centers the guilt. 2, occupy your space fully. Sit up, speak clearly, let your voice carry. You are not background noise in your own life. Number 3, name your truth without having to soften it. You don't have to be aggressive to be assertive. See, integrity is what gives clarity, but intimacy will give you the tone. And then 4, let your silence be sacred, not scared. See, sometimes presence isn't about what you're saying more than it is about what you don't dilute. There's a beauty of being unapologetically present. And that is that the world does not need a smaller version of you. It needs the version of you that breathes freely. The version of you that doesn't apologize for existing. The version of you that understands that presence is an act of love. Because every time you stand fully in your being, you're making it safer for someone else to do the same as well. And that's not arrogance, that's leadership. So no, you are not too much. You're just finally refusing to be less. In tomorrow's episode, we're going to enter into our next phase of this series this month, and that is how to translate all of this internal worth into external practice. So the next episode, I think the title is Worthy Even When We're Healing. But for now, just remember this, my dear listener. Your presence is not a disturbance. Your presence is a declaration that you are not in the way. You are the way. I appreciate you listening in. I'll see you tomorrow's episode.